Alright, I've been taking some video topic ideas from the comments. This was one somebody had asked about, so I thought I'd make a video on it. But basically, they want to know how many hours I work owning a Subway. I'm going to go over a few things in this video. There's 3 things that I thought would be important and relevant to this topic. The first just being the hours I work in the store and what I'm doing during those hours. The second thing I'm going to cover are what other franchisees choose to work for their stores. The third thing is I'm going to cover what some franchisees absolutely have to work because of the store they purchased. If you only have one Subway, it boils down to these 3 categories or levels of stores, I would say, and then also some personal choices. I usually work about 5 hours a week. I do 1 day truck orders, a second day for...
Did he just say 5 hours a week? Does he mean 5 hours a day? I'm curious. This is the first time I'm watching this, by the way.
Inventory. I'm gonna also be changing over that to a new system. I'm in the process of doing this now. What I'm changing over to is where I'm required no hours in the store at all. I've set up a spreadsheet system and I've promoted a guy to assistant manager. I'm in the middle of promoting him to assistant manager. I'm getting him trained up on some things. Today, when I was at the store, I went over teaching him inventory. I chose to do, instead of giving him full control right now, since this is my only store, I just set up Google Sheets. He can do it that way and then text me when it's done. And then I can do it on the built-in like Subway app, sub-inventory, update the inventory, basically doing it that way. It stops me.
So having owned multiple food franchises, inventory is one of the most interesting things to do as a franchisee and actually one of the most challenging to train people on. And I remember when we owned our franchises and I'd moved 2,500 miles away. So I was completely on the other side of the country and I had my store manager doing inventory. And it's funny how every time I had a manager and for no matter what location, they always tried to then pawn inventory off to the assistant manager. Even though I was like, hey, this is something that you need to be doing. They would be like, oh yeah, I'm training the assistant manager how to do inventory, because doing inventory sucks, especially when you have a walk-in freezer. By the way, we would have a walk-in freezer. I would have to go on with a jacket and mitts on, and it was very, very cold. But you know, if you want to get to, this video is all about like how much you work. And if you want to get to a point where you're working less in your business and you're able to effectively delegate and your business not be reliant upon you, it's really going to come down to your ability to train other people in the business to do the things that you think are potentially untrainable or complicated. So I love him. I love that I'm hearing him say, hey, I'm, training someone to do probably one of the more complicated things in the store and most sensitive, because doing inventory wrong, this is one of those things that has a pretty significant consequence. As an example, if you say, hey, we have $200 worth of this product and we have 4 boxes of it, and your par level is like what you should have at all times. You're always ordering up to that level. So as an example, if your par level is 10 and you have 4, you're always ordering back up to your par level. So 10 minus 4 would be you would order 6. If you had 8 left, you would order 2, right? And so that's something where the consequence to messing that up is significant, right? Because if someone accidentally says we have 8 and you only have 2 and you only order 2, you can run out of product, which is not a good thing. Or if they say we have 2, but they miscount and you actually have 8, now you're spending a bunch of money that impacts your profitability.
Me from having to drive to the store. I do live 30 minutes away from my location, but what this will allow me to do instead, I can focus on other things. And right now, what I'm considering doing is popping in randomly just to do like inspections. I'm probably going to do thinking about making a checklist, an inspection checklist for me to pop in, make sure everything's running good. And then I can focus more on employee training, the operations of the store. I think that's going to be important. So I can just come in. The assistant manager will do all of the basic training, but I want to be...
So he was talking about doing surprise check-in. So I would do that all the time. So number one, our franchisor, one of the benefits of being in a franchise system is our franchisor had mystery shops. And so what would happen was there would be a customer that was a complete mystery shopper. We would have no idea, and we would just randomly get an email with our mystery shop report and score. And there was a bunch of specific criteria points that had to be hit. So that was one benefit. I would get the score, and obviously the goal is to train your team to a point where they're being consistent and doing things right all the time, because you never know when the mystery shopper is coming in. Actually, it was once a month, so we did know that would happen once a month. And I would look at the cameras, and I would watch the cameras in the store, and I would call. Like if people were doing something or that they weren't supposed to be doing, or I would actually call. So they knew that I was watching the cameras. And then I would also pop by randomly as well. Now, clearly, if you don't have like a retail location in your business, these are things that like you may not be able to do. But in these sort of businesses, kind of retail based, hiring people that are like more minimum wage, it's important to have that element of surprise.
Be able to pop in as well and ensure that their training is going well, help them improve and get better. Because really my job as the owner is to make their job easier. The easier I can make their job doing everything in the store, the easier it is for them to be awesome at it. And I firmly believe that. I don't think any reason anything should be complicated. I think everything should be boiled down to its very basic foundation and improved and streamlined as much as possible. The easier everything is, the easier it is for them to do their job and be great at it. And that's basically it for my hours. Now, I do want to talk about the other two types of franchisee hours and what people choose to work. So the second type, you have these franchisees that choose to work in their store to save on labor hours. And I think this is a good strategy for a lot of people. I'm probably going to go to a blend of this. I'll talk about that in a second. So some people have trouble letting go of the reins as well because it scares them. That's the one type of person you have that's going to buy their store and work in it nonstop. They're afraid of letting other people run things. They're worried that they're going to destroy it, right? And that was a hard lesson for me to learn in my online businesses as well when I was new to running any kind of business at the time, where you have to learn how to step back and let go and trust the person that you have hired and trained to do that job. As the owner, nobody will ever care about your business more than you. When you hire somebody, if they're doing it 80-90% of what you would do as the owner, that's probably a good hire. You're never ever going to have somebody that has as much skin in the game as you do, and they're never ever going to put in the same amount of effort and perfection that you do. And that's something you.
So there's a couple things that he referenced here that are actually pretty interesting. What he's saying now is pure gold, spot on. So number one, he's talking about owners who will work in their store to save money on labor. So why would an owner do that? If you've been thinking about buying a franchise, then go check out our Franchise Buyers Academy. It's going to give you everything you need to know about owning a money-making franchise in a one-stop shop, condensed place, all in order, so you can stop scouring the internet, stop researching things all over the place. It's going to save you a ton of time and a ton of money. So you can go get access to it at franchiseempire.com/FBA. Let's get back to the episode. In the beginning, it may be necessary, but it's a short-sighted way to operate your business. And some people call buying a franchise buying a job. And that would be an instance where you're positioning yourself to buying a job, right? If the business is dependent upon you to be in the store operating the business, how do you grow the business? How do you train your team? How do you set yourself up to then open a second location if you're actually in there making the sandwiches? Now, again, in the beginning, like it takes time. You graduate up. Like I worked in the store in the beginning when we first opened, but your goal is to get out of running the day-to-day of your business, to train and elevate your team so that you can grow the business. Your biggest and highest value as the owner is in growing your business and getting it to run more efficiently and more profitably. So if you're stuck working in the business to save on labor, guess what you're not doing? You're not out there growing the business. You're not working on sales and marketing strategies that can grow the level of business. And the reason why someone would work in the business to save on labor is because they're not producing enough sales to feel comfortable in paying for and hiring the labor that they need to have to be able to not be there working in the store and running the location profitably. So then it's like, how do you get to the point where your business is producing enough sales and profits that you can hire the labor and the people that you need? That happens by making your business more profitable. One of the easiest ways to make your business more profitable is to generate more sales and more revenue. So it becomes this catch-22 that's hard. And there is this period of time where it's you kind of need to burn the candle at both ends, unless you're just willing to say, hey, I'm going to sacrifice profitability for the short term so I can go out there and pay people, put them in place to work the business day to day so that I can go out there and focus on the things that are going to grow the business. Now, when he's talking about, people not trusting and not delegating, this is 100%. This is why most business owners become a slave to their business and they become stuck at running their business and do buy themselves a job, is because they have this mentality that I do everything right and that I have to be the one to do everything in my business. And I am quite OCD and very much a control freak, and was even more so back in 2016 before we opened our franchise. One of the biggest gifts that God gave me was that we moved across the country after we opened up our franchise. And so I was going to have to figure out, how do we run this business without being there? And I had to just get comfortable. It's like if you don't know how to swim and someone's like, well, dip your toes in the water, like, just push him in the pool. Funny story about that. My buddy actually did that to our dog. We have a lab, and labs are supposed to be good with water, right? And we had this pool that had the beach entry, right, where you can like literally dip your toes in, and it gradually goes deeper and deeper. And our dog Buddy just would not go in the pool. And one day, my buddy, who is a just kind of jump all in kind of guy, he just pushed Buddy in the pool. And I was kind of pissed at first. I was like, dude, you just freaking pushed my dog in the pool. But then all of a sudden, Buddy was swimming. And after that point on, Buddy would just jump in the water. And so connecting the dots to our franchise moving across the country, I had to just jump in the water of trusting and delegating and training my team and trusting that they would execute and get the things done. And so what happened was, in the almost 3 years of owning that business and living in Florida when the store was in California, I physically went to the store 2 or 3 times during that entire 3-year period, and our sales and profitability continue to grow. And actually, in mystery shops and audits and some of those measurements of how well the store was run, we were one of the top 10 stores in an entire franchise system. So if you can learn to delegate, to trust people, to properly train, to hold them accountable, the gift on the other side of that in terms of quality of life and what that can create for you is incredible.
Have to understand that every now and then you'll get that rock star employee that does put in as much effort, just like as if they own the business. And those people, you need to do what you can to keep them around, promote them, pay them well, help them out. Those are the people you really want to make sure they're paid well and just stick on your team. Now, I'm a firm believer that the problem with this strategy is you cannot grow as well or as quickly if you're always working in your business and not on your business. Those are 2 different things, and a lot of new business people get those confused. Working in there, doing the day-to-day things, like if I was in there making sandwiches every day and all of that, yes, I could run that store so good. I could have everything running really well, but I'm not good. That takes my time away from working on the business and growing my portfolio of restaurants or any business that I'm a part of. And that's not what you want to do. You don't want to be so busy stuck in the business you can't work on it. Earlier when I said we're thinking about I'm doing a blend. So I've been talking with my wife. Me and my wife have thought about doing it where
By the way, that is so spot on. That is so spot on. You and it's really what I was just talking about before. You've got to spend time working on the business and not in it. And to his point of, when you find people on your team that treat it as if it's their own business, you 100% have to take care of those people. There's actually someone on our team that's been with us for a few years where I've proactively reached out to them and given them a raise and increased the amount that we pay them, and make sure that they're taken care of because of just how much trust they've built and developed and what they've poured into the business, and treating as if it's their own. You don't wait for those people to say, hey, can I have a raise? Because some people will never come to you and ask you for a raise. And you do other things, right, to show that you're taking care of them, because it becomes this relationship that becomes win-win. And unfortunately, that's why a lot of business owners they just have a culture of losing good people because they want something out of their team that then they're not then willing to reciprocate. So don't be that person. Don't be that business owner.
He was actually going to work in there to save on some labor hours. But right now, we currently live about 30 minutes from the store. She does not know how to drive. I am in the middle of teaching her how to drive. Should be fun. She's from the Philippines. We've been married about 1.5 years. Over there, she's close to the city. They have a lot of public transportation. For here, we're in rural Alabama, and you have to have a car.
Philippines to Alabama. That's interesting.
To get anywhere. So it is on back roads. So I'm gonna have to teach her how to drive and then get her a vehicle. And once we do that, she might start working in the store on actually on the schedule some days, just to save some labor hours, because we did some math on it and we could probably save another $25,000 per year in labor costs that will be put towards the store's profit. And that's just going to speed things up for us, getting a second, third location and expanding. And it's something that she wants to do instead of being, because you get bored just sitting at home and whatever. Yeah, we go out, but it would just be nice to have something to occupy your time. Some weeks we might schedule her 1 week on, 1 week off, or something like that. That'll change the math on the amount we're able to save, but it might be nice just to have save a little extra in labor hours. So that's something working.
So here's something to consider and really think about, is like the way that you manage your business, and whether you work in it or try to focus on working on it. There's really no right or wrong way to do it, right? Like I may say, hey, if you want to grow your business, you're going to have to reinvest back into it and pay people and delegate. Like you don't have to do any of that. And it all really depends upon what your goals are and what's important to you. if, let's say, like we have some clients at Franchise Empire where they're walking away from a job and they have a family to support. And so they need to make sure that they're able to pull, a certain amount of cash flow from that business to support their family. So in the beginning, if you're needing to work and save on labor so that you can pay yourself, that is okay, right? There's no right or wrong to that. But you do have to know, like if your strategy at some point is, hey, I want to grow the business and I want to create a business that's not dependent upon me and that I am not a slave to, and that can operate independently from me, then you've got to know that that is going to impact your profitability. Like if you're going to set up a business that can operate without you, granted, you're going to need to pay more help and your business, it will be less profitable. So really the question is, it's the optimization of quality of life and the amount of money that you need to make in your business. And no one can answer that for you. That's a personal thing.
Considering, well, we haven't really set that in stone yet. But the third type of franchisee that I need to talk about, and this is really important if you're thinking about buying a store, you should listen up here. Some franchisees have to work in their store. If they don't work in their store, that store will fail. The number one bullet point I wrote down is it's because their store doesn't make enough money to hire staff. They can't hire staff and make a profit at the same time. That's because they probably bought into a poor location. That was the case for the store I was in initially. First month, we did work in our stores a lot. We were in there every day. If I wasn't, the store would not be making money. And it was important for me to show my face to the community and really let them know there's a new guy in town turning the store around. That helps. My store was a reputation play. I had to change the reputation of the store to recover it. I did all my due diligence and research before buying it. I knew what I was getting into. But some people, they get stuck with a bad location, and I feel bad for them because they are more bought them. This is what you hear from a lot of people who comment and say, oh, you bought yourself a job, you buy these franchises. That's true for some people. Some people do buy themselves a job. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I'd rather work for myself 80 hours a week or for somebody else for 40. Not everybody has that mindset. When you work for yourself, there's just something about it, something different. If you know, you know. Another reason some people have to work in their stores is because they're too cheap and they don't really have a growth mindset. They're too focused on saving at every turn. And saving money is important. You should do that in your business. I focus on saving where I can as well. But the thing is, you don't want to do it to the detriment of your business. And I feel...
Yeah, this is a great point. There were some people in our franchise system where they would not buy like the almond milk from our food distributor that came on the weekly truck. And they would go to the grocery store to buy their almond milk because they were saving like 50 cents a carton or something like that. And in my mind, I was thinking, I'd rather pay the extra 50 cents than have to deal with like going to the store just to get almond milk and just to optimize the operation of the store. Like it really didn't make sense to me. If you want to learn the right way to own a money-making franchise without putting your family at risk financially, check out our free masterclass at franchiseempire.com/masterclass. Let's get back to the episode. I've actually experienced both sides in being a few of these different owners. So our first store in California, the first 8 months was at the store often, then moved 2,500 miles away. That store just crushed it from the beginning. Then I bought a turnaround location, similar to what he's saying. Like, hey, I knew what I was getting into. There was definitely a reputation turnaround that had to happen. And it took longer than I thought. And it was harder than I thought. I spent many, many, many hours in that store. I spent a lot of 10, 12-hour days in that store, a lot more than I ever thought I would. I spent a lot of weekends working all weekend long right after we had our first son and coming off of when I used to play golf a lot. There was a lot that I had to sacrifice in that period of time to dedicate to the store to get it turned around. Because just from a financial standpoint, if I wasn't in there working, we were going to have to pay money in labor that we didn't have. And so that was one of the hardest things I'd ever dealt with in business. It was a really tough time. It was exhausting and just like working on your feet all day. It's very, very intense. So I know what that's like. It's not easy. And the only way to get out of that is to just work your tail off. And sometimes that's the answer in business, is to just literally outwork yourself out of a rut. You have to do it strategically too. But I've been in that situation before, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And we did wind up increasing sales by 35% year over year eventually in that store. It was a very long year, I will tell you. So anyways, I thought you would enjoy this video. This guy's obviously has the right mindset. He's doing things right. He's clearly sharp. And there are some franchise owners, that they own 5, 10, 15, 20 stores, right? So when you own that many, you're certainly not buying yourself a job. But if you start out with one and that store is doing a little bit of sales and is not a great performer, just know that it's going to be a tough road until you get yourself to a point where it's making the amount of money that you need to make. Remember that sales cures all in a business. The more money you can get your business to generate, then you can reinvest that money, you can hire people, you can solve problems. There is a phrase, if you have the money to solve a problem, then you don't have a problem. I'll see you on the next one.